Title: The demonic echo of the curtain. The seats, once upholstered in a luxurious red, now look scruffy and covered in dust, ghosts of an audience that no longer existed. The Arcadia Theater, once a temple of the arts, now stood as a mausoleum of broken dreams, a place where laughter had been silenced by a more sinister echo, that of madness. Daniel, an ambitious actor tormented by mediocrity, had found the Arcadia by chance, or perhaps, as he himself suspected, the theater had found him. He was desperately searching for a role that would catapult him to fame, a performance that would define him and pull him out of anonymity. The legend of the Arcadia, whispered in theatrical circles, had drawn him like a moth to a flame. It was said that the theater was cursed, that the souls of failed actors and forgotten stagehands wandered its halls, trapped in an eternal performance. One night, while exploring the labyrinthine backstage, Daniel stumbled upon a hidden door, almost camouflaged against the wall, eaten away by dampness. Upon opening it, a stench of damp earth and putrefaction hit him hard. After coughing a couple of times, he ventured into the darkness, guided by the faint beam of light from his mobile phone. The room was small, an old, forgotten dressing room. In the center, on a dust-covered pedestal, rested a mask. It was no ordinary mask. Carved from a dark, unknown material, it seemed to writhe before his eyes, with an expression of pain and mockery at the same time. Its eyes, two deep black holes, seemed to observe him with a malevolent intelligence. The mask of madness, Daniel thought, feeling a chill run down his spine. The legend was real. The legend said that whoever put on the mask would be possessed by the tormented spirits that inhabited the theater. He would lose his sanity, become a vehicle for their evil, a puppet of their frustrations and grudges. But the legend also said that whoever managed to master the mask would achieve unprecedented fame and recognition. Daniel, blinded by ambition, chose to ignore the warning. With trembling hands, he lifted the mask. It was strangely light, almost as if it weighed nothing. As he brought it closer to his face, he felt an icy current run through his body. An invisible force pushed him forward, forcing him to put on the mask. The instant the mask touched his skin, a torrent of images and sensations washed over him. He saw faces deformed by fear and despair, heard screams of agony and hysterical laughter. He felt the weight of the frustrations of generations of forgotten actors, the pain of their broken dreams, the bitterness of their failure. The mask took over him. His own identity blurred, dissolving into a sea of alien emotions. His body became a mere instrument, controlled by a dark and relentless force. At first, Daniel fought. He tried to resist the influence of the mask, to cling to his own sanity. But the strength of the spirits was too great. Little by little, his resistance weakened, until he finally surrendered. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer Daniel. His gaze reflected a ruthless madness, a pure evil. His face had transformed, taking on the grotesque features of the mask. He began to laugh. A shrill, maniacal laugh that echoed in the walls of the abandoned theater. A laugh that chilled the blood and foreshadowed tragedy. Under the influence of the mask, Daniel, or rather, the entity that now inhabited his body, took ownership of the theater. The tormented souls that wandered its halls submitted to his will. The specters of failed actors and forgotten stagehands became his subjects, his puppets. The Arcadia came back to life. Flickering lights illuminated the stage. Spectral music resonated in the air. The ghosts danced and sang, under the baton of the new master. But it was not a celebration. It was a cruel mockery, a macabre parody of art and beauty. It was a representation of madness and despair, a hellish performance for a non-existent audience. Daniel, trapped in the depths of his mind, watched in horror as his body was desecrated. He tried to scream, but his voice had been silenced. He tried to resist, but his will had been broken. For days, the demonic echo of the curtain resonated in the Arcadia. Neighbors reported strange noises and lights coming from the abandoned theater, but no one dared to investigate. They feared awakening the spirits that, according to legend, inhabited it. One night, a group of young people, attracted by curiosity and the desire for thrills, decided to enter the Arcadia. They forced the main door and ventured into the darkness. What they found surpassed their worst nightmares. The theater was full of dancing specters, led by a grotesque figure with a twisted mask. The young people, terrified, tried to flee, but it was too late. The masked entity caught them one by one. He subjected them to unimaginable tortures, feeding on their fear and despair. Their screams of agony joined the spectral chorus, increasing the demonic echo of the curtain. Finally, only one remained. A young woman named Sophia, who had heard the legends of the Arcadia since childhood. She knew that the only way to stop the madness was to destroy the mask. With a courage she didn't know she possessed, Sophia confronted the masked entity. She dodged his attacks and managed to get close enough to snatch the mask from him. The moment the mask left Daniel's face, the specters vanished and the theater fell silent. Daniel fell to the ground, unconscious. Sophia, with the mask in her hands, felt a dark and relentless force trying to take over her. But Sophia was stronger than Daniel. She was not seeking fame or recognition. She only wanted to protect her friends and stop the madness. With a scream of rage, Sophia threw the mask to the ground and stomped on it with all her might. The mask broke into 1,000 pieces, releasing the tormented spirits that inhabited it. The Arcadia Theater collapsed. The foundations, weakened by centuries of abandonment and evil, could not withstand the release of energy. The mausoleum of broken dreams became a pile of rubble. When the rescue teams arrived at the scene, they only found Sophia, covered in dust and rubble, embracing Daniel's unconscious body. Both were taken to the hospital. Daniel woke up days later, with no memory of what had happened. He had lost the memory of the last few months, as if the mask had erased his own existence. Sophia, for her part, would never forget what she had seen and lived in the Arcadia Theater. The mask of madness had been destroyed, but the demonic echo of the curtain would continue to resonate within her forever. Much later, as she contemplated the empty lot where the Arcadia Theater once stood, a chill ran through her as she heard a hoarse voice whisper in her ear, "Now I'm who I was always meant to be."